The estate auction laughed as a young woman paid $100 for a welded-shut rusty chest. Then she. The laughter echoed across the crowded estate auction the moment the young woman raised her bidding card. People exchanged amused smiles as the auctioneer announced the final bid of only $100 for an old rusty chest that looked completely worthless. Its heavy iron lid had been welded shut decades earlier. Its wooden panels were cracked by time, and layers of rust covered nearly every inch of its surface. Most buyers believed it belonged in a scrapyard, not an auction. But the young woman ignored every whisper and every laugh. Something deep inside her heart told her not to walk away. Before the sun set that same day, everyone who mocked her would wish they had trusted their instincts instead of judging an old chest by its appearance. Before we discover what happened next, please take a moment to like this video, leave a heartfelt comment, share it with your friends and family, and subscribe to Kindness Inspire if you believe kindness, hope, and second chances can completely change someone's life. Your support allows us to continue sharing inspiring stories with the world. It was a bright spring morning when 28-year-old Maris Holloway arrived at the Countryside Estate Auction. Gentle white clouds drifted across the clear blue sky while cool breezes moved through rows of towering oak trees surrounding the old Victorian mansion. Antique collectors, furniture dealers, and curious visitors wandered between long rows of tables displaying paintings, clocks, silverware, books, and forgotten family heirlooms. Maris did not come searching for treasure. She came searching for possibility. After graduating with a degree in furniture restoration several years earlier, she dreamed of opening a small workshop where forgotten antiques could be repaired instead of discarded. Unfortunately, life rarely followed the plans she imagined. Medical expenses following her father's long illness had consumed nearly every dollar she had saved. After he passed away, Maris inherited only a tiny rented apartment, a collection of worn woodworking tools, and countless memories of afternoons spent repairing old furniture beside him. Her father had always repeated one lesson. Old things deserve a second chance because they carry stories no one else remembers. Those words never left her. That morning she carried only $200 inside her small leather wallet. Every purchase had to matter. She spent nearly 2 hours carefully examining old cabinets, rocking chairs, picture frames, and vintage tables. Most attracted fierce bidding that quickly climbed beyond her budget. Then she noticed something almost everyone else ignored. Near the back corner of the auction grounds rested an enormous rusty chest covered by dust and dried leaves. Thick iron straps wrapped around weathered oak boards, while rough welding sealed the lid completely shut. No labels identified its contents. Only one faded paper tag remained attached. Contents unknown. Most visitors barely glanced toward it. Some joked it probably contained nothing but broken bricks. Others suggested it had been welded shut because it was empty. Maris quietly brushed dirt from one corner with her fingertips. She noticed delicate hand-carved floral patterns almost invisible beneath years of rust. Someone had once cared deeply about this chest. The auction eventually reached its final items. When the rusty chest appeared, the crowd grew noticeably quieter before scattered laughter spread through the audience. The auctioneer opened bidding. No hands rose. After several awkward seconds, Maris slowly lifted her bidder's card. $100. The auctioneer looked around. No competing offers appeared. The hammer struck. The chest belonged to her. Several antique dealers chuckled as workers carefully loaded it into her aging pickup truck. One collector even smiled sympathetically, believing she had wasted half her savings on worthless scrap metal. Maris simply thanked the workers and drove away. She felt strangely peaceful. Back inside her modest workshop, sunlight poured through tall windows onto wooden workbenches covered with restoration tools collected over many years. The old chest rested silently in the center of the room. The welded seams immediately caught her attention. They looked far newer than the rest of the chest. Someone had intentionally sealed it years after it had originally been built. Why? She carefully cleaned away decades of rust before studying every inch of the metalwork. Hours passed. Finally, using one of her father's restoration grinders, she slowly removed the welds without damaging the original iron frame. Her hands trembled slightly. The heavy lid refused to move. She gently lifted once more. This time it slowly opened. Inside she expected dust. Instead she found something far more remarkable. Perfectly preserved beneath layers of protective cloth rested dozens of handcrafted journals, family photographs, neatly organized letters tied with blue ribbon, property maps, and beautifully carved wooden keepsakes. At first glance, none appeared especially valuable. Yet Maris immediately realized they possessed something far greater than financial worth. They preserved an entire family's forgotten history. Carefully reading the first journal, she discovered it belonged to a respected schoolteacher named Eleanor Winslow, who had documented everyday life inside the town almost 80 years earlier. Every page described acts of generosity, community celebrations, family hardships, local traditions, and personal reflections during difficult times. The letters revealed something even more emotional. During a devastating flood many decades earlier, Eleanor and her husband secretly sheltered several struggling families inside their home, providing food, clothing, and hope when almost everyone else had fled. They never sought recognition. Instead, they asked future generations to continue helping strangers whenever possible. Maris spent the entire evening reading until tears filled her eyes. The chest contained not riches. It contained kindness. Over the following weeks, she contacted the local historical society. Experts carefully examined every journal, photograph, and document. They were astonished. Many believed large portions of the town's early history had disappeared forever after courthouse records were destroyed during the same flood described inside the journals. Now those missing chapters had unexpectedly returned. News spread quickly. Historians praised the discovery. Teachers requested permission to share Eleanor's writings with students. Families recognized long-lost relatives inside restored photographs. The forgotten chest had reunited an entire community with its past. When reporters interviewed Maris, they repeatedly asked whether she regretted paying $100 for an old rusty box. She smiled gently. She explained that priceless things rarely appear valuable at first glance. People often overlook history for exactly the same reason they overlook struggling people. Both deserve someone willing to look a little deeper. Months later, the town museum organized a special exhibition dedicated to the Winslow family journals. Thousands of visitors arrived. Children listened quietly as volunteers read passages describing courage, compassion, and neighbors helping one another during difficult times. Many left inspired. Among the visitors was an elderly man named Harold Brennan 86 years old, who slowly approached one particular photograph displayed inside a glass case. The moment he saw it, tears formed in his eyes. He recognized his own parents standing beside Eleanor Winslow shortly after the flood. For decades, he had believed every family photograph had disappeared forever. Maris gently listened as Harold shared memories from his childhood. He explained that Eleanor's family had once given them shelter when they had nowhere else to go. Without their kindness, he believed his family would never have survived those difficult months. Maris realized something extraordinary. One woman's simple decision to preserve family memories had continued helping strangers generations later. Inspired by the discovery, Maris transformed her small restoration workshop into both a furniture restoration studio and a community preservation center. Residents began bringing old letters, photographs, handmade quilts, journals, and family heirlooms before time could destroy them. Young volunteers learned restoration techniques while elderly neighbors shared stories connected to each object. The workshop became filled not only with antiques but with laughter, friendships, and shared memories. People no longer viewed restoration as repairing furniture. They understood it meant restoring human connections. Nearly 1 year after purchasing the chest, Maris received an invitation to speak at the same estate auction where people had laughed at her decision. Standing beneath the bright afternoon sky, she looked across many familiar faces. Some recognized her immediately. Others remembered the rusty chest. She held up one of Eleanor's restored journals and reminded everyone that appearances often hide extraordinary value. Sometimes forgotten furniture hides remarkable craftsmanship. Sometimes worn photographs hide priceless family history. And sometimes ordinary people quietly carry extraordinary kindness waiting for someone to notice. The audience applauded with genuine respect. Several antique dealers later admitted they had judged the chest far too quickly. Maris bore no resentment. Instead, she thanked them. Their laughter had never changed what the chest truly contained. It simply delayed their understanding. Years passed. The Preservation Center continued growing. Thousands of historical documents, family photographs, handwritten recipes, diaries, and letters found new life through careful restoration. School children visited regularly, learning that history belongs not only inside textbooks but inside ordinary families. Visitors often asked Maris what the greatest treasure inside the rusty chest had actually been. She never mentioned the journals first. Instead, she answered with a quiet smile. The greatest treasure was the reminder that hope often arrives wrapped in ordinary appearances. That lesson had changed her own life forever. The old chest still stood proudly inside the Preservation Center entrance. Its lid remained open permanently, not to display wealth, but to remind every visitor that the world often hides its greatest gifts beneath rust, dust, and years of neglect. Just as people deserve second chances, so do forgotten stories. And whenever someone chose to look beyond appearances with patience and compassion, another remarkable story found its way back into the light. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, share it with someone who loves inspiring stories, leave your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to Kindness Inspire. Every act of support helps us continue sharing meaningful stories filled with hope and kindness. Special request, comment below. The greatest treasures are hidden inside kind hearts. Let's spread this beautiful message together. As the bright afternoon sun illuminated the museum courtyard, children gathered around the once-forgotten rusty chest, listening carefully as volunteers shared stories preserved inside its weathered walls. Nearby, Mera smiled quietly while watching another generation discover the power of compassion, history, and second chances. The crowd no longer remembered the laughter that had filled the auction 1 year earlier. Instead, they remembered something far more valuable, that the greatest discoveries are rarely made by those searching for riches, but by those willing to believe that even the most forgotten things still have a story worth saving.